Hello and welcome to Teal House Farm. Today we're going to ask the question, is homesteading worth it? You're going to have to find out to the very end here what we kind of decide. And I will say it's not really a definitive answer.
It's true. So a lot of times, I guess to start from the money standpoint, I think a lot of times when people talk about homesteading, they talk about it as a way to save incredible amounts of money.
I think that's why one of the reasons we started it was to do as much as we could for ourselves. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't always mean that you're going to be able to do it without spending any money.
Right. Especially
up front, and especially if you have a homestead that has nothing on it at all.
That's true. And with a lot of the animals, the things that you can produce on your homestead, in general, it's cheaper for you to go and buy it at the store than you could probably produce it for yourself.
Well, you think about with chickens, you think, oh, I just grab a couple chickens and, they're going to start laying eggs and, it'll be great. But you got to think, first I'm going to have to build that chicken coop. And, maybe you're fortunate enough to find a place where you can get a bunch of scrap lumber and you can build that coop for free. Probably not. A lot of people are going to have to go and buy a lot of the materials for that chicken coop. And then you think, well, I'll just get a couple chicks and it'll be good. They'll start laying. But chickens don't start laying until they're close to 5 months old. And at the beginning, they're not going to lay that many eggs. And then say you got your chickens at the wrong time and that 6 months, 5 months hits in the dead of winter, they're really not going to lay any eggs. For a lot of the winter, they won't lay very many eggs. And all of a sudden, you realize all of that money you've spent and all of that time you've had your chickens, and you don't have an egg to show for it yet.
And then you finally have eggs to show for it, and you say, yes, now we will have chickens, and then they will have little baby chicks, and it'll be this cycle, and we'll always have eggs. And then you realize that, well, none of your chickens want to sit on their eggs, so then you have to spend money on an incubator and things like that. And
that's kind of the same thing with all of the animals. You have to have the infrastructure first, and the bigger animals you have, the more things you're going to need for them. If you have goats or if you have cows, you don't have to, but it's nice to have like stanchions or head gates and things like that, so that if they do get sick or they need to be worked on, you have a place to kind of hold them down a little bit so that you can make sure they're well cared for. There's a lot that goes into that.
And there's no guarantees too. I mean, we've had animals that we've put a lot of money in that died, that it didn't work out positively, and you didn't get any benefit from the animal. But then we've also have animals that have been with us for a very long time, and our milk goat is a great milk producer for us, and she's been great. So it's a dice roll, and there's no guarantees. Also, when it comes to the garden, when you're talking about cost, is it cheaper to grow green beans yourself and can them at home? Definitely not your first year. The canning supplies, the jars, the canner, the amount of time, if your sweat equity, if you make that, in the calculation, it's definitely a lot cheaper to go to the store and buy a 50-cent can of green beans. But like with anything, it's not just about cost. You also have quality. I grow green beans, the type of green beans that I like, the way, I grow them. I know what's going into my soil. I know that there's nothing being sprayed on my plants, things like that. Same with the chickens,
the feed that's going into them, and whether some people will give medicated feed, or some people might give vaccinations to their animals and such.
Right, and we also know that our chickens are happy chickens that aren't crowded in with a million other chickens in some sort of hut laying eggs until they're too old. So I think another thing that a lot of people tend to overlook when you are considering whether or not this homesteading lifestyle is worth it to you is the amount of time and energy it takes to maintain any amount of acreage. We have 10 acres here.
Yeah, and I think we would have our hands full with like 2.
Yeah, it takes a lot of equipment to maintain acreage, fencing, being able to mow down things that you don't have animals to graze, or if you have enough animals to graze, that's a lot of money that you've put into having those animals and that infrastructure. So
even if you have like the nicest fence in the world, like, you're still gonna have to fix it and mend it, and over the years it will break down. Animals are rough. Well, your domestic animals and even wild animals are rough on fence.
Another item I think a lot of people don't consider when they are thinking about this type of lifestyle, our baby is singing, is that this more simplified lifestyle that tends to come with homesteading, this emphasis on like lower waste and doing more yourself and cooking from scratch and all that kind of stuff. A lot of those changes to make that happen, they don't impact the person as much who is outside working on things as much as they impact the person who is inside the home, whoever the homemaker is of the family. And you will need to have somebody who does the inside stuff if you are wanting to live the, really like, if you're wanting to live that more like romanticized type homesteading where you're making your own butter and cheese and all that kind of stuff, like, you have to have somebody who has the time to do that, and you need to have a person at home to do those things. But it also everything takes longer. Even things like the fact that we hang laundry outside on the line to conserve energy, like, that's more of my time. I have to bring it outside and hang it up. All the cooking takes longer because a lot of it's from scratch. There's a lot more laundry to do because we use cloth diapers. We have reusable everything. I think a lot of...
And that's not even including people that want to go like off-grid.
Off-grid.
Like, there are some people that go off-grid and still have all the appliances and nice things, but it costs a lot of money to do that. And people that want to live very, very basically, it's a lot of work to try and live off-grid, inside the house and outside the house.
So, yeah, your daily chores just take a lot longer because you're doing everything yourself. You're not having machines do it for you.
There are some times when we're doing some of our chores, or when I'm doing some of the chores around the house or outside, and I think back to the time when we lived in the city and we didn't have kids. And it's just like, what did I do with all of that? Like, when I didn't wake up in the morning and have like an hour's worth of chores, like, what did I do with myself every day? I just roll out of bed and I don't know.
But
all right, so let's talk about some of the redeeming qualities of being a homesteader.
Now that we've kind of talked about all the thumbs down things that I think get left out of the picture a lot when people like to present homesteading, there are a lot of benefits that I think really outweigh those negatives. Mm-hmm. For example, I can't raise 20 chickens, really. I can't raise them cheaper than I could go buy eggs at the store. But I can raise a better quality chicken,
right,
a better quality egg, and I can also give my children the experience to learn about chickens and where their eggs come from. And I can also be promoting food systems that don't damage our earth as much by being responsible with how we raise our chickens and not, insisting that all of our food comes shipped from all over the world and travel from all over the United States leaving a huge carbon footprint.
And if you're careful and do it the right way, there is definitely a place to make money, selling chickens or meat birds or eggs. If you're a good business person, you can definitely do that.
And then there also comes, the idea of food security. That's one of the
right,
big reasons we do what we do. Even in the really good economic times, I do not necessarily save money by homesteading. I save money some places, but there's things where it actually costs more and there's things where it costs less, and I would kind of consider it a wash. But in times like today, when we are filming this and we have a lot of inflation going on and there's some supply chain issues and some uncertainty about what the supply chain issues are going to be going forward, like, when it comes to what am I going to feed my family, like, I'm not really that concerned about it.
Mm-hmm.
We have an egg source, our water source is on the property, we have a milk source. I grow a huge garden every year. I have lots and lots of things put up in our canning pantry. If the apocalypse were to happen and we couldn't go anywhere or buy any food, we wouldn't have all our favorite things, but we would be okay. And so that I think that sense of food security, especially having lived in the past with food insecurity, when we had fewer children, actually, interesting, when there were fewer children to feed, we had a harder time making the ends meet to feed them. Like, I would never go back to that. And to me, just being able to do that, to have that food security, know that that's taken care of for my family, that makes everything else worth it. Like, that trumps everything for me.
And like the main reason that we started homesteading was basically for our family in general. That's one of the perks or the good things of homesteading. Like you had said before, we felt like there were a lot of things that past generations knew how to do and do really well for themselves. And as we get further and further, like more modern, I guess you'd say, as people, that a lot of people didn't know how to do those things. We didn't know how to do a lot of things, and we wanted to teach our kids how to do some things for themselves. Even if in the future they care nothing about homesteading or farms or, that kind of stuff. It's just a good skill to have in your back pocket.
I think if we boiled it all down to how I feel, I don't know, you could tell me after if you feel the same way. I think one thing, if I had to just come down to one thing about whether or not it's worth it or not, I think being prepared and knowing that my family would be taken care of if there were some sort of natural disaster or some sort of economic disaster, to me that is absolutely worth it. However, living every day like you are living in the middle of an economic disaster because you are, not earning enough income off the homestead because you're so like in because we thought when we started that we wanted to just live off the land.
Yeah, we thought
that was not fun, and that was really hard.
Yeah.
And
we thought we could drop almost everything outside of the world and do live really frugally and cheaply.
And you can,
Oh, there are people that do it for sure.
Oh yeah, but I felt like our kids were missing out on a lot, and I felt like, we knew we could never do anything that wasn't you couldn't even be like, well, we're just gonna take a day and go do something fun as a family, because you couldn't put gas in the car to go do that because you didn't have enough income. So for us, I think going forward, we love the simplified lifestyle. We think it provides so much for our kids, but we're sending Sam back to school in the hopes of a different occupation in order to be able to make income off the homestead so that we can live this simple life and live this more frugal life, but then we also have money to do fun things that we want to. If we want to take a day and be off the homestead and help our kids experience things
and to do more things on our homestead. When you're limited financially or you don't have for us, even now we don't have a lot of equipment, or we just now have a nice truck that we know will start every time we turn the key. And in the past, trying to get big animals, even for us, getting the goats was a big thing. That costs a lot of money for us. But in the future, we would like we've said in some of our videos recently, we'd like to get some cows and maybe some horses and things like that. But you gotta have some money, and you gotta definitely have the right barns and set up and equipment to take care of those animals in a really good way. So
the question is homesteading worth it? What would you say?
Yes.
Why?
In whatever capacity you want to do homesteading. For some people, homesteading might just be a couple of chicks or a rabbit and a little container garden or something like that. And other people, it's going off the grid in Alaska and doing everything themselves. I think it's good because you can learn new skills. It gives you good family time. You can provide for yourself, and I think it just gives you a good grounding. I don't know. It's that as much as for me, I do a lot of the outside chores and milking the goats and feeding the chickens and stuff. And as much as there are some days where it's man, I got other things I want to get done. I don't have time for this or whatever. Taking time to just sit for a few minutes and milk a goat, sometimes that's really, really good. I don't know how to describe that. Sometimes it is kind of
Therapy.
picturesque and therapeutic a little bit. But anyway.
And I would say that it's definitely worth it. But I think for anybody who's considering homesteading, you need to be honest with yourself and know what it is that you want out of it.
Mm. Ooh, that's good.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because like you said, it's not the same for everybody. You know, off-grid with Doug and Stacy, like they wanted an off-grid, unplugged life.
Mm-hmm.
And they started with nothing and they built up to their dream, and that was always their ultimate goal. And I think they knew the negatives and the disadvantages that came with that, and they were prepared to deal with them. Mm-hmm. And accept them and are happy. I think, we've met them and they seem very happy with what they're doing.
Yeah, but that's a tough life.
Would I be happy with an off-grid? Because we thought, let's do it all the way.
Yeah.
I don't think so. Like,
we've dabbled as we've done homesteading. We've done a few things here and there without
mm-hmm.
power and electricity, and but we've not gone totally all the way. But we'll try something for like a couple of months to see is this something we could fit in? And it is tough.
We went without a fridge for like a year. We used an ice chest.
Yep.
I mean, that's an extra 10 minutes of my day because you gotta keep it wiped out. You gotta switch out the ice and all that kind of stuff. Like, to me, I did not gain anything from having an ice chest, just more work.
Living without a water heater mm-hmm. for a while, and without
baby is loud.
Seeing if we could do like our own kind of off-grid shower. Let's see, what else have we done? We didn't have water here on the farm. We toted mm-hmm. water in for a while. Yep. We've tried a little bit of everything.
And kind of tried to figure out what is best for us. And that's
how far do you want to go?
It's up to you. And I feel like there's a pressure in the homesteading world that if you're not like all the way, you're not in the game, or you're not really doing it. But whatever it is for you, like when it comes, like if you just want to grow a garden, you want to live, in the middle of suburbia because that's where you're happiest, being close to your friends and everybody, then cool, grow your garden and enjoy that part of homestead. If you want to live out in the middle of nowhere and be able to stand on your front porch butt naked because there ain't nobody to see you, then go for it. Whatever it is that makes you happiest. It's not about what everyone else is doing.
That's very, very true. Yeah. No peer pressure. Don't give into it. You do you. You figure out which parts of it you really like and which parts you don't, and keep the ones you like, the ones you enjoy, as much as you can. There's always going to be some things you don't. Like cleaning out the chicken coop. Oh. Chicken poop's the worst, I swear it is.
It just like burns the eyes.
Oh, it's terrible. Anyway, I think homesteading's worth it in the end. There might be some negatives to it, but in the end, I think it's worth it.
Here's Mr. Loudmouth himself. And ultimately for us, I think our ultimate goal was to be able to be closer as a family, and I think that we've, I'm sorry. I think that we've achieved that. Excuse me. I am able to stay home with all the children and be there, and I don't, we didn't know that at the time, but that's what our family was going to need. Like, I don't know how you could handle everything that Annie needs and all the appointments and stuff. If both parents were working, that would be incredibly difficult. Just the amount of work I would miss just to bring her to things. So, in the end, it ended up being the right spot for us for a lot of different reasons. So.
I agree. Okay, so you let us know in the comments if you think homesteading is worth it. Why or why not? Maybe we'll have to do a follow-up video.
And what's your measure? Some people just measure it monetarily. Is it going to save me enough money? Mm-hmm. And some people measure in other ways. So what's your litmus test? Oop, ding. Okay, we're going to go now. I think we've babbled long enough. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And we will see you guys next time.